Hi, this is Tessa with Side Stitch Magic, and I am circling back, pun intended, with my finished beautiful clock purse. So before I move forward, I just want to share a couple of shorter videos that I did as I was making my clock purse. Hopefully those will help. It will go over how I designed this pocket piece, and it will also kind of demonstrate what I did to cut out this piece here for the clock. After watching those videos, please finish watching the rest of this video so that you can see how this all came together and what it looks like as the finished product. So I wanted to do a little snippet, and I will try to make sure that I keep this little snippet separate, or I will tag it so that you know exactly where to go to. So all I did for the panel that I'm using as the liner for the clock is I used some remnants of some binding, and then I used some craft text. Now the only difference that I'm changing between the one that I made in the purple that I shared in previous videos and now is that I actually sewed the binding down first, and then I decided to put the craft text in afterwards. This time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sew the rectangle with the craft text inserted in between my lining and the binding. As far as the Velcro goes, I think after, all this is, again, I keep saying this over and over, but I think it's important to note that this is my first attempt at doing this, so I'm probably going to find things along the way that I will change. But for now, I really like the way that I did the Velcro. So I'm going to keep the Velcro the same. It's really easy to use. It's very sturdy. And in that case, I am also going to be going through the craft text, and that will give it a little bit of extra stability for my Velcro closure. Of course, when the bag is finished, these are all going to be sewn together. The top and the bottom will be sewn together. So all I'll have right here is an opening in between so that I can change out my battery in the clock. Oh my goodness, friends. Well, it looks like it's going to work. I can't believe that I got the circumference right the very first time. I'm usually okay with doing math, but I actually cut the circle, as you saw in my previous video, before I even received the clock. Now, a couple of things. The upside to this clock, once I received it, is that this is plastic, it's not glass. So that's an upside, because I was a little bit worried if this was glass that I would hit it against something and then it would break. The downside is plastic tends to scratch, and so you have to be a little bit more careful with that. So over a period of time, this clock will scratch. So that's kind of a downside. I think there's some sort of like film that you can get to put over it if you're concerned about that. But for right now, the goal for me is just to figure out if I can make this bag. So I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and use this holographic vinyl. It's vinyl that I've had. I think it actually goes really well with a clock. I've actually inserted the clock in this to see what it looks like. Again, and this is just the pocket. The exterior pocket is right here. You can see on this finished bag. And so I decided to go ahead and do both of my outside pockets with the holographic vinyl. This is a lot more stiff than the other vinyl that I typically use, so I'm not going to interface this as much as I did with the first bag that I made. The other thing that I needed to double check is to see the room inside of the bag. I wanted to make sure that, when I insert the clock pocket, that I'm going to have enough depth inside of my bag that I can go in and change out the battery. So if you want to kind of see what this is going to look like, of course this isn't sewn and I haven't sewn down my seam allowance yet, but let's just go ahead and clip this so you can kind of see where I'm going with this, the method to the madness here. This is a first rough draft, so till I sew the bag together, you never know, right? But I think this is going to work out great. And the way that I did this is I went ahead and cut the pattern like I showed in previous videos, and then this is kind of what the back of the bag is going to look like. So I used the craft text on this section of the liner. I made this with a Velcro opening, And you can see that, well, this is going to be, I know it's kind of hard to hold these with just regular clips, but let me just move this around a little bit so you kind of understand what I'm trying to do here. So I'm hoping that once this is inside the bag, that I have enough clearance for me to simply reach in here and grab this battery. So I have the battery right here, open up the back of this, pull my battery out, and then I can replace my battery and then close it back up. Now, what you lose when you're doing this with this pattern is you lose the fact that, you know, like if I wanted to use this as a pocket with any sort of like small items or anything like that, I wouldn't be able to really do that because this is kind of an open area here. But if I wanted to say like put my phone in here, I'm just using that as an example, or a receipt if I go to the store or something like that, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Now, I did use the Craftex right here just because if there's any, I don't know that much about batteries, but I know that I don't want any heat or anything like that coming onto the fabric or the interior of my bag. So what I did here is I put that Craftex here just to give it a little bit of extra protection here. And hopefully that's going to work out okay. Now, when I go to make my bag, I'm going to go ahead and make the bag. Obviously, I'm not going to be sharing all of those details because I want to protect the pattern. But once I go to sew my bag, I will insert this after I make the bag. So I have, you know, the same circle cut out. I have put some Decovil on the back just for a little bit of extra protection. Now, I did have to snip a couple of little snips around here, but I always intended, I always knew that that was going to be something that I was going to do with this particular bag. And now what I'm going to do is after I get the clock inserted into the new bag, I will then use glue to glue around the backing of the clock. That should work fairly well. I'm also going to use some really nice heavy-duty leather double-sided tape. I think that the combination of both of those together, really nice glue underneath here, and then a really thick double-sided tape around the other part of the clock, the back side of the clock. That should hold it in place, I hope. Right? I mean, we'll see what happens, but on to the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and finish sewing the bag. And then once I go to insert the clock into the new bag, I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so now that you've watched the two videos, one which kind of showed what I did with this piece, this is my prototype piece, and this is, as you saw in a previous video, I demonstrated how I inserted the clock in this piece. I did want to show you, let me turn off my light here because we'll be able to see the cutouts a little bit better when I get to that part. So this is the finished product, and I will share the link to the clock where I purchased my clock. Unfortunately, Amazon sold out of these clocks, but there are a lot of clocks available online. You just have to basically decide what kind of clock that you want. Originally, when I purchased these clocks, I bought a couple of them. I thought this was going to be glass, as I mentioned in another video. It ended up being plastic, which is fine. It's actually worked out well. But I did want to show you the only thing that with this bag that I'm going to change on future bags is, so I'm not planning on using this pocket often. Sometimes I'll just place my phone in here. But I have this Velcro closure in here. And you can see how easy it is. This dial for changing the clock, it spins easily. So after here in the United States, we have this crazy thing where we change our clocks twice a year, forward and back an hour. And so after in the spring, when we change our clocks again, I'm actually going to put a piece of Teflon tape on the dial in the back because this dial is really easy to change. And sometimes, even though this pocket is closed with the Velcro in the back, sometimes if I put my phone back here, it'll make the material move a little bit, and it can potentially change just by a couple of minutes. So here's my finished bag. I will show you what it looks like on the inside. I have one pocket, a zipper pocket, a nice deep zipper pocket. It also has a nice, actually another deep slip pocket. But what I wanted to show you is that I've always had this preconceived idea that circle purses don't have a lot of room. This bag has plenty of room. This is a full-size wallet that fits in there no problem. Plus I have things down at the bottom of my purse as well. This bag comes with the option of this pattern, I should say, with having a strap on the sides. Now for my clock purse, I didn't want to have a strap only because I didn't plan on wearing it as a crossbody bag or a shoulder bag. I intended the whole time to use it just as a handle bag or an arm bag. But you can do that with this pattern as well. There are free patterns that you can purchase, free circle bag patterns if you don't want to buy a pattern. I do really like this pattern from Ora Rosa. It's a nice design. Now, the person that I originally got this idea from, she made a circle bag and she put her clock on the main exterior piece. She didn't do the pocket like I did. There was a reason that I did the pocket, but you don't have to do that. However, for the demonstration of what I'm showing you specifically what I did for a pocket piece for the clock purse. So if you were going to put your clock on just this exterior piece, you would have to come up with a different idea or concept for that lining piece on the interior of your bag. So before I actually came up with the circumference that I was going to need for my clock. Now again, you're going to have to figure that out. I just lucked out and did the math and it actually worked the first try on my prototype over here. But as I shared in the previous video, just to recap, I used my Cricut Design Space to come up with the circumference of the clock that I purchased. And once I figured out what that was, I created a prototype. The prototype was cut out with what I thought were going to be the correct dimensions to insert my clock. I projected the circle down onto my cutting mat. I cut the circle out. I put the front panel together and tested it before I constructed this final bag over here. The reason why it was important for me to construct a full bag before I did anything else was because I wanted to make sure that no matter what I used, it was going to fit on this bag. For an example, whether or not I used a tag, am I going to use a tag? Am I not going to use a tag? Where am I going to center this on my bag? Now, I could potentially have put a tag on the opposite side. You can do that if you'd like. You could potentially put a tag up above. That's all up to you how you want to create your own bag. So first I finished one complete bag. Then I figured out the prototype for the dimensions of my pocket piece. I knew that my clock was going to fit, as you could see in a previous video. Then what I did is I constructed my bag except for the clock piece. And that's where I want to leave off with this video. So once you figure out what clock you're going to purchase, what your circumference is, you're going to do a prototype to make sure that your clock is going to fit in your front pocket piece. And then once you do that, then you will construct your bag except for obviously the clock. In a couple of weeks, I'm planning on making 2 more clock bags. In the next couple of weeks, I will circle back and I will show you how I glue it into the actual bag. So one of the things that I wanted to mention too is that I don't think that I mentioned this in a previous video, but this particular company where I bought this vinyl, it's Itchin' to Get Stitchin'. She offers different sized designs for vinyl. So in this case, the small size worked because I wanted to have the woman center, I wanted to have everything kind of centered with the coffee cups and the books and everything else. So keep that in mind too, that when you are placing your clock, you're going to have to make sure that, a lot of you do this anyway, but you're going, you need to make sure that you're designing this front pocket piece around the clock so that you can at least see, if you even have a design, what that design is going to look like for placement. So have fun. Go ahead and create the first part of your bag, and then I will come back in a couple weeks and I will show you how I have glued my clock into the next clock purse. I'll demonstrate that. I'll do all of that on video with you so you can see exactly how I do it. You can see how easy or hard it's going to be. We'll see if it gets any easier on the second bag. Well, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I especially enjoyed getting to interact with some of you that leave comments or questions. And it's been kind of fun to interact with some of you. I really appreciate it. So again, I will see you in a couple of weeks. Go ahead and get your bags ready and prepped to where you're ready to put your clock in, and then we'll move forward. Thanks for watching.